guys, today we're going to learn how to tune your guitar. Yeah, I think we need some work on this one. Okay, this is really important, and a lot of us guitar players, are so dependent on using a digital tuner that we're kind of in trouble and we're stuck if we're ever in a situation where we don't have one. So I'm going to show you a few different methods. We're going to use our ears to do this, but we're also going to use a tuner later on, so I'll show you how to do that. To begin with, we're going to talk about how to tune to another instrument. Okay, so if you're in a situation where you're playing with another guitar player or with a piano player, how to use their instrument to tune yours accordingly. Then we're going to talk about how to tune your guitar to itself, and then we're also going to talk about how to use a tuner. And along the way, we're going to be learning some tips and tricks and best practices for how to actually get your guitar to be in really great tune to play in any key. Okay, so to begin with, we're going to tune to another guitar. So let's assume that you're over at your friend's house and they have a guitar sitting around, and their guitar sounds pretty in tune, but your guitar sounds like... Okay, so we got to fix that. So to begin with, we're going to play the low E string of your friend's guitar, and we're going to listen to that note. Okay, this is really important to develop your ability to hear frequencies and to distinguish between them. So we're going to play that low E string and just really listen. Hear that note, and then we're going to play the low E string on your guitar, and we're going to compare the two. So when I hear this note and then I play mine, mine's higher than that one. So I'm going to want to loosen my low E string until it's the same pitch as that one. Now, a couple of tips here. First of all, when you play one string on your guitar, the entire guitar is resonating and vibrating, and it's causing the other strings on your guitar to vibrate as well and create some overtones. And when you change the pitch of your one string, there's other things happening. And so to help your ear hear truly just that one string, you might want to use your left hand or right hand, either way, to hold down or mute the other strings so that you're only really hearing that one note. It just gives a little bit more clarity so that as you're developing your ear, you can truly be listening to that one note. So let's do that again. Okay, I ended up pretty close. Now, another tip is to go lower than the note. I always do this. And then come up to the note. And just because of the way the gears are on your tuners, that's going to help your guitar strings stay in tune better than if you're sharp and you're tuning down to the note and you stop right at the note, there's a chance that there's some slack in the string or in the gears that's going to come out, and eventually you'll end up going flat. And so what you want to do is come below the note and then tune back up to it, and it's going to stay right in tune better. Okay? Now what we're listening for is as we get closer to being in pitch, being in perfect tune with each other, the strings should be vibrating exactly at the same frequency. When that happens, you don't hear any dissonance. It's just all perfectly in tune. When they're not quite in tune, you'll hear some dissonance or beats, and it'll sound like wah, 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 wah. As you get closer and closer to being in tune, those will slow down and then disappear completely. So I don't know if you'll be able to hear it in the video or not, but as I'm tuning these strings closer and closer to being in pitch, it's like wah, 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 wah. And then once they're in pitch with each other, that goes away. So when you're at home practicing, you can kind of listen for that, and you can make fun of me for making these noises with my mouth. All right, so moving on to the A string. Again, I'm sharp. I can hear. That's about how fast the beats are going right now. Okay, so now I'm perfectly in tune, but remember what I said, go lower, and then come back up to the note. If you're doing this method, you do have to have some peace and quiet. It's one of the downsides. All right, D string. G string. Notice with my right hand, I'm holding down the strings that I'm not using, so that I'm muting those overtones. Okay. Alright, so now well, in theory, my guitar is in tune with this guitar, okay? And I was making an assumption to begin with that this guitar is in tune, which may or may not be true. And it may be in tune with itself, but that doesn't mean that it's actually at like a 440 concert pitch. So that is the first technique. Now the next technique we're going to look at is tuning to a piano. It's very similar, you just have to know which notes on the piano to play that are going to sound like the strings on the guitar. Alright, so let me show you that. Okay, so we're going to be looking at tuning our guitar to a piano. And to begin with, we're going to use, it's very similar to tuning our guitar to another guitar. We just have to find the right notes on the piano to play that are going to be our reference notes so that we can tune our guitar to the piano. So it's going to be the notes, if you know the names of the notes on your guitar, it's E, A, D, G, B, E if you're in standard tuning. If you're not familiar with the piano, just a really brief overview, this is middle C. And you can always find middle C, it's in the very middle of the piano, but it's also, anytime you see 2 black keys, 3 black keys, notice the pattern. If you find the 2 black keys and then you just go down a half step from that C sharp, from the black key right there, that's your C. And then the musical alphabet starts over after the letter G. So C, we go down here, this is another C. So anywhere you find those 2 black keys and go down one, that's another C. So if you're going through the alphabet, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, F, G. Okay, so if you use that, you can find that this is an E, and then that this down here is another E. So those are all E notes. Now, the E on the low E string of your guitar is this note right here. So it's 2 E's below middle C. Now, make it a little bit easier on yourself, use the sustain pedal on the piano, that's the far right one, and play that low E note. And then you're going to play the E on your guitar and tune it till it's in tune with the piano. Okay, then the next one is A. So you're going to just count up E, F, G, A. Okay, and then the next one is D, so A, B, C, D. And the next is G, so D, E, F, G. The next one is B, so G, and then A, B. And then the last one's high E, so B, C, D, E. Now notice that they all fit within these 2 octaves, okay? All the strings on the guitar are right there. E, A, D, G, B, E. So there's never a gap of more than a 4th on the guitar. So there you have it. That's how to tune your guitar to a piano. This is really important if you're playing with an acoustic piano that's slightly out of tune, and this is why you can't always depend on your electronic tuner, because it's not going to help you in that situation. So it's really important to learn how to tune with your ears. Alright, next we're going to talk about tuning your guitar to itself. And for this method, you have to know that your guitar is somewhat close to being in tune. You wouldn't want to use this unless you're really advanced after changing your strings, for example. Because you're just not sure that you're even in the right neighborhood. But if you're close to being in tune, it feels like it's pretty close, you're just a little bit out of tune, this is a great method to use, especially if you don't have a tuner around or whatever. Now, this will also work if you're tuning to another instrument and you want to just get one note to start with. You tune your low E to their guitar or their piano, and then you can use this method to tune the rest of your 6 strings so that your guitar is perfectly in tune with itself. So to begin with, we're going to know that our low E string is in tune. We're going to assume that. We're going to kind of work on that assumption. So we're not going to mess with that string. As we go through the guitar, we're going to leave that one alone. So the first method, and there's a couple different ways to do this too, is that we're going to fret or push down the 5th fret of the low E string. Now this note is an A. So when I play the A string, it should be the same. Now my guitar is not in tune on purpose, so I can show you how this works. So I'm playing the 5th fret of the low E string, and then I'm going to play the A string open. Now I'm going to adjust my A string, leave the low E alone, adjust the A string until it sounds in tune with the low E. What I like to do is play both of them, and then reach with my right hand and tune it like that, letting both of them resonate at the same time. Now I see some people go and kind of go back and forth with the left hand. It takes a little bit longer, and I don't think it's quite as accurate as if you let both of them ring out together and adjust it with your other hand. Alright, now we're going to do the same thing. Now we know that the low E and the A string are in tune with each other. We're going to press down the 5th fret of the A string and play the D string to compare it. The open D string. Now my D string is flat, it's a little bit too low, so I need to bring it up. Again, I'm listening for those beats and I'm waiting until they even out, until the strings are in tune. Sometimes when they get really close to being in tune, it's hard to tell if the string is too low or too high. If that's the case, I just go back down too low on purpose, so I know it's too low, and then try to come back up until it's perfect. Like that. Alright, now our low E, A, and D are in tune. I'm going to do the same thing to tune the G string. So I'm going to play the 5th fret of the D string and compare it to the open G string. Okay, now here's the one string that has to be annoying and different, is the B string. So if you have a problem with this, don't take it up with me, take it up with the guy who invented the guitar. But you're going to push down the 4th fret of the G string in order to tune the B string, because the B string is tuned to a major 3rd, whereas the other strings are all tuned to perfect 4ths. Trust me, it's actually a good thing because it lets you play chords like this and not have to do something weird with your hand. But it's a little bit annoying when it comes to tuning. So we're going to play the 4th fret, so 5th fret, 5th fret, 5th fret, and then it's the 4th fret of the G string to tune the B. Okay, and then we're going to go back to the 5th fret to tune the last one. So we're going to push down the 5th fret of the B string to tune the high E string. Okay, now when I get to the end, it's always a little nerve-wracking. I'm about to play a chord. Is it in tune? Is it not in tune? I don't know. I mean, I think I did pretty good as I went through these. But the real test is playing a couple chords and seeing how it sounds. So I always play a G and an E, and I'll explain that later. So it's still a little bit out of tune. So what I'll do is I'll play the low E string and the high E string and compare them. And I'll adjust the high E string until it sounds like it's really in tune. Now they're obviously different notes, but they're different pitches, but it's the same note. So it's 2 octaves apart. So what's actually happening is that the low E string is resonating at 1 frequency and the high E string is resonating at 4 times that frequency. Okay, so once I get those in tune with each other, then I can kind of work backwards on the B string by playing the 5th fret of the B string, comparing it to the high E string. And now, because I know the high E string is in tune, I'm actually not going to move that one, I'm going to change the B string. And that actually made a pretty big difference. My guitar sounds in tune right now, so I'm going to leave it alone. There's a couple other things that I like to do just to kind of cross-check and make sure that, because what happens is as you're going through, if I make a slight miscalculation on the low E to the A, and I tune the A string a little tiny bit flat, and I do the same thing as I go through all 6 strings, by the end it's kind of added up to the guitar's not in tune. So here's a couple of things I use to cross-check. It's octaves. And so what I'll do is I'll play the low E string open, and I'll play the 7th fret of the A string. And I can kind of tell it's a little bit, the A string is a little bit flat, because what I'm doing is I kind of bend that A string just a little bit to test it and see, okay, well it's close, it's not exactly right. If I bend it, that means I'm actually raising the pitch. Does it sound more in tune or out of tune? And I can tell that it needs to come up just a hair. And then I'll do the same thing with the low E string open and the second fret of the D string. That's the same note as the 7th fret of the A string. And just kind of check that octave too. And what that's doing is it's kind of spanning 2 strings, and so it's figuring out if there was any mistakes made that added up. You can kind of hear them a little bit easier. Because if you're off by like 2 cents on one string and 2 cents on the next string, it's hard to hear, but 4 cents may be a little bit easier to hear. Okay, then I'll do the same thing for the A string. So I'll play the A string open and the 7th fret of the D string. Make sure that sounds in tune. And I'll do the same thing with the open A and the 2nd fret of the G string. So it's a little flat, because if I pull it sharp, it sounds more in tune. So I made just a small adjustment, and now it sounds a little bit more in tune. Now when I'm tuning, when I'm checking the D string and the G string, I'll use the open D string and the 7th fret of the G string, but when I'm messing with the B string, again, it's got to be difficult. I actually have to use the 3rd fret to play my octave, because if you remember earlier, we tuned the G string compared to the, excuse me, this is so confusing. The B string, when compared to the G string, is only a third instead of a perfect 4th apart, and so when I'm trying to play an octave, I have to go up 3 frets on the B string to make it a full octave. Okay, now I'm going to do the G string and the B string, so I'm playing the open G string. I'm going to have to play the 8th fret of the B string to test it. That one sounds perfectly in tune. Then I'm going to play the open G and the 3rd fret of the high E. And then to do the final one is the open B string and the 7th fret of the high E. Now it really is sounding good to me. I mean, it sounds really great, perfectly in tune. I'll show you one other method to tune the guitar to itself using harmonics. So let me get the guitar a little bit out of tune, just kind of mess with everything. Oh, this is painful. Okay. After all that work. Okay, so harmonics, if you don't know what a harmonica is, basically you take your fretting hand and you touch a guitar string above a fret. So usually you play in between 2 of the frets. When you're doing a harmonic, you actually don't push down, and you just touch the string, but you touch it above the actual fret, not in between the frets. So the best harmonics, or the easiest ones to hear, are the 12th fret, the 7th fret, and the 5th fret. And they're basically creating an overtone by creating a note on the string to where it's vibrating equally on both sides. And so on the 12th fret, what you do is you just lightly touch the string above the 12th fret, and then you pluck the string with your other hand, and then you just let go and let it resonate. Okay? So this is a great way because it's giving you a long-lasting note that's easy to hear, and it's an octave higher. Now when we play some of the other harmonics, it's going to be 2 octaves higher, but it makes it a little bit easier to do some hands-free work with your tuning hands. So to begin with, we're going to, I think I left the low E alone. Let me check with my digital tuner real quick. Alright, cool. We're going to assume that the low E string is in tune again, and we're going to play the harmonic that's on the 5th fret of the low E string. Okay, so that's actually 2 octaves. It would be another octave above that. And then we're going to listen to that note, okay, and then we're going to play the 7th fret harmonic on the A string. And they should be the same, but because I ruined everything. You can really clearly hear the beats. I don't know if you can hear it in the video, but if you're doing this with an acoustic guitar, or an electric guitar actually for that matter, it's really easy to hear those beats, and then when it's perfectly in tune. Okay, now you do the same thing from the A to the D. And again, that one was sharp. So I'm going to go down below the note and come back up to it. Apparently I didn't mess that one up at all. Now for the pesky B string, you can't do it. It's two different notes. They shouldn't be the same. And so what I do is I just go back to the other method. I push down the 4th fret of the G string, tune B string open. And I check it with those other methods, with the octave methods, just to be sure. And then I'll tune the high E string to the B string using the same harmonic pattern we were doing. 5th fret of the B string harmonic to the 7th fret of the high E string harmonic. So now we're back in tune, all right? Now the last thing that I want to show you is how to use a tuner, because obviously that is one of the predominant methods of using of tuning your guitar these days. A couple different ways you can do it. The clip-on tuners are my favorite right now because they work in any environment. So all the methods we just used only really work if it's quiet enough for you to hear your instrument. Although I will say, after doing this for 20 years, I can almost tune just by the feeling. I mean, if you're in a loud environment and you're trying to tune, you can actually feel the vibrations in the guitar and you can tell when strings are in tune. But that's not going to happen overnight, and still it's not as accurate as if I can hear the instrument really well. So if I'm on stage tuning, I'm going to use a clip-on tuner or a floor tuner, like a pedal tuner, if there's a pickup in the acoustic guitar, or if I'm playing electric guitar. We really like the Snark tuners. It's a good design, they look cool, and they're super easy to use. They only have one button for the most part on the front display, there's some on the back. The great thing about these tuners is, especially for beginners, they give you a visual. Humans are very visual creatures, and so it helps you know exactly which way you need to go, and gets you right on the correct pitch. So there's basically a little readout that moves this way, and then when you're in pitch, when you're in tune, it's right up and down and it changes colors. The downside to this is if you rely on the tuners all the time, then you're tuning with your eyes and not your ears, which is fine for most of the time. But if you're ever in a situation where you're playing with someone else and their instrument isn't in tune and they can't change their tune, like a piano, then you're going to have to tune to them and you can't use your tuner anymore. So that's why it's really important to develop your ear and your ability to tune by ear. But that being said, to tune with a Snark, you just play the low E string and you adjust it until that readout shows E, and it shows you that you're exactly in tune because the bar, the little LED displays the right color. And then you just go through and do the same thing. Now I'll tell you this, I do use tuners a lot. But they're not exactly right all the time. So you can get in tune according to the tuner and still play a chord. Like, notice this too, this is another weird thing. So my G chord sounds perfect, like it's in tune. My D chord sounds pretty good. And the E chord sounds pretty good, but there's something a little bit sour about it. And it's usually the G and the B string. They're fighting about something. And so that's why I use those other methods, the octaves, because it kind of works out some of that, the weirdness about the tuning of the B string. And what'll happen if you're playing in a situation where you know that you're only playing in one key and there's only a certain group of chords that you're going to be using. For example, you're playing one song at a performance, at a recital, or whatever it is. Or if you're in the recording studio and you're about to record a song, and you know I'm only using G, C, and D, then I actually will tune my guitar specifically for those chords. Because the way the guitar's tuned, it's this gets into a lot that I'm not going to get into right now, but being even-tempered or being perfect pitch or whatever, that there are times when it'll be in tune for one chord and it'll sound out of tune for another. Because of the way our ears hear pitches and because of the ratio of the frequencies, blah, 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 blah. But mainly it's going to be the G and the B string. And so if I'm playing an E, I'm actually going to tune the G string down a little bit, which I know sounds crazy. Even if it says it's out of tune, according to the tuner, I'm going to adjust it. So sounds great right now, but if I play a G chord, that G string's a little bit flat now. So it's a weird thing, and that's part of the fun of being a guitar player, but as you get further and further along into your training and your ear training and performing and all that sort of thing, you'll start to notice that, okay, it sounds pretty good, but there's something a little bit off, and you'll be able to adjust it as long as you kind of pay attention to that. The other thing I like is there's a bunch of tuner apps that are free or very inexpensive. We like to use Guitar Tuna, T-U-N-A. It's kind of fun, it's got a cool little readout, and it makes a sound when you get in tune, like a little rewarding, ding sound. And so it's fun to use. My students enjoy doing that. And yeah, some really, really great resources out there online for you if you want more than this, which I can't imagine anybody watching this whole video. By the way, if you've made it to this point, congratulations. You are truly dedicated to tuning your guitar. But if you want more information, you can absolutely scour the web and find all sorts of opinions and methods out there. But I think this will get you started and go really far to getting you and your guitar in tune. All right, thanks so much. Subscribe, share, comment, like, all those good things, and we'll see you next time. Rock on.